A very famous character is apparently being written out of The Simpsons. Also, all wildlife on Earth is dying, you're not allowed to eat chocolate anymore, and it's all Trump's fault. In addition, women, Christmas cakes, and sex. What do these three things have in common? Finally, Halloween sucks. I react to the trailer of The Quake, and PlayStation Classics lineup has been revealed. I go by the name of Johnny Massacre, and you're witnessing the Johnny Massacre Show. And it's time to cut to the intro. Hello people, how you doing? It's Tuesday in Tokyo. I'm a little bit late with Monday's Johnny Massacre Show, but it still is Monday for some of you out there, especially my American viewers. How you doing? Yes, I am the Boom Boy, loving this top. There's loads of shit going on, so let's get straight into it. A character apparently might be removed from The Simpsons, and his name is APU. He's the Indian guy who owns the Quickie Mart. In England, we call it a corner shop, because they're usually on the corner and they're owned by Indians. I have very good memories of the corner shop, going there to do drugs, basically, because let's not lie about it. These sweets in corner shops are drugs for kids. The dopamine rush, the dopamine hit you get is a little bit similar to doing a line of coke or an ecstasy tablet. Of course, those latter things are much more dangerous. However, they both release a shitload of dopamine. And so, yeah, sweets are bad, but happy memories from the corner shop. So why are they writing out this guy from The Simpsons? Well, actually, let's get this straight. The Simpsons producers have not said that they're going to remove APU, but there's loads of news about it. And it's all being spearheaded by an SJWS social justice warrior, an Indian social justice warrior, who's offended about this character. Why is he offended? Because a white guy is doing the voice. Who fucking cares? It doesn't matter. It sounds good. It sounds funny. What's wrong with that? Homer Simpson is a stereotype of a fat white American dad. Do you see white people getting pissed off about that, or black people or any people? No, not really. But these days in the media, the white person's the enemy. It's really weird what's going on right now, this cultural stance that people are adopting, demonizing white people, treating minorities like fucking babies, basically voting blocks. And you're seeing this mentality in what some people are now saying about this Simpsons character. So let's have a look at some of the news regarding this. I'm gonna throw acid in your eyes and go to an SJW article that appears to be written by an SJW. Have a look at this. So this is on inews.co.uk, and the journalist Bieber Kang says, if The Simpsons get rid of APU, they're telling South Asians that without stereotypes, we can't have representation. So she says the character should no longer be voiced by Hank Azaria, but by an Indian actor. So she is saying that Indians don't get the same opportunities as white people. She's saying that someone should just give Indian people a helping hand in general because they're Indian, not because they might be suited to the role. Yeah, maybe an Indian person is going to have a more authentic Indian voice than an American person or a white person. But a white person's take on an Indian voice is going to be pretty funny because they're going to look at it from outside the box. They're looking at it from the perspective of the customer who's going in there, as opposed to a person who might actually run the shop. And so they can give a unique take on it. It's nothing particularly sinister, but you've seen this kind of outcry in these articles before with pretty much anything in the media that can be attacked for being morally... how do you say it? Morally questionable. the SJWs are never satisfied. Once they get rid of APU, they'll just move on to the next thing. And with people like this who try to make mountains out of molehills about things which aren't even relevant or shouldn't be newsworthy, if you give them an inch, they take a mile, as they say. They'll just be on to the next thing to ban and censor, and we'll all end up in this very weird, sterile world, which is veering towards censorship. And one day, all dissenting voices might be censored by a political party whose views you might not align with. So we've got to be careful with all this pearl clutching SJW nonsense. I'm here to call it out. It's okay to have a white guy do APU's voice. You don't have to diversify the Simpsons. You don't have to hire an Indian actor. Just let it continue how it's always continued. So last week, the guy who kicked off this whole discussion is called Adi Shankar, who's apparently he's a comedian, but I've watched some of his shows and people just laugh at him because they feel sorry for him. He plays the victim card all the time. He's a minority, poor me, everyone's out to get me. And people laugh because if they don't, that would be racist. So this is what we're going towards. In a world where we're banning APU, you're going to have people laughing at things because they're supposed to laugh, like in North Korea, because if you don't laugh, it's going to offend the person who made the joke, in contrast to the person who's making the joke offending everyone else. It's like we're trying to flip the world on its head. So this guy, Adi Shankar, this not funny comedian who's Indian, claimed The Simpsons had plans to drop APU. But then The Simpsons actually, someone responsible for The Simpsons on Twitter came out and said, while we respect him, he doesn't speak for us. And quite recently, there was a joke in The Simpsons where they even referenced some of the characters maybe being a bit out of date and kind of casually racist or something. And they had a picture of APU on Lisa's nightstand or something. I can't remember the joke, but Simpsons have knowingly referenced the controversy surrounding APU. And so I guess it seems like there's this narrative building in the media that we've got to get rid of APU, but actually they might not be getting rid of him after all. So this SJW guy, Adi Shankar, said they aren't going to make a big deal out of it, which means dropping APU or anything like that, but they'll drop him altogether just to avoid the controversy. The only person making controversy is this fake controversy, so this person can look like a good person. Hey, someone's abusing this Indian man. Ban the cartoon. Now I'm a good person and no one can criticize me because I'm aligning myself with the minority. It's a funny world we live in. Why are we even talking about this nonsense? Anyways, I want to show you this person spearheading the ban APU movement. Where is the guy? Here he is. So he's actually written a whole documentary about this called The Problem with APU. I'm going to throw some acid in your face. Let me just get my headphones so we don't get some weird audio problems when we do this. But have a look at this documentary, The Problem with APU. So this is a group of grown men with enough time on their hands to get together in a group and discuss why APU is so problematic and basically virtue signal and just show everyone how amazing they are and of what good moral standing they are. Here we go, people.
Hate APU, and because of that, I dislike The Simpsons.
The whole series.
Yeah.
I love The Simpsons because
You hate yourself.
Oh my God, within 5 minutes, these people are just talking about hating themselves and why life is so terrible and why I'm such a victim on their high-resolution 4K YouTube show. What's wrong with these people? There's APU, much-loved character.
great career filled with laughter, critical acclaim. I should be completely...
I've had a great career filled with laughter and critical acclaim, and here he is looking sad and overweight, drinking his sad-looking independent coffee.
But there's still one man who haunts me. APU Nahasapima Pedalon.
Wow, I mean, first world problems. This character hurts me. A character that everyone fucking loves. I love APU. I don't want APU to disappear. If this was some weird racist thing, I would be like, yeah, get rid of APU. We don't want any Indians in The Simpsons. I love APU. I used to love going to the corner shop with Indian people in it and buying sweets. And yeah, not all Indians talk like APU, but some of them kind of talk like him. I think it's quite charming, the Indian voice. He's like, look, you come into my shop and you want to buy something, but if you do not buying it, you have to get out. And if you cannot buy today, you must buy tomorrow. Now look, every day I served you a lot of sweet thing, but tomorrow you're not eating. So come on, let's come to deal now, dealing, and let's be fairing. Because if not fair, nobody can make money in capitalist system. I think it's a cool voice. I like it. I like doing a parody. Someone can do a parody of me. Oh, the posh white man from London. Hello, with my fish and chips, my bowler hat, and my monocle. Oh, pearl clutching. Someone's making fun of my culture. It's funny making fun of people's cultures. Let's all laugh about it and kind of just trivialize it a little bit, because really it's not that serious. This guy talks different. His voice is kind of a bit quirky to English people, but charming in some kind of way. Nobody's hating him. It's actually quite endearing. These people are so sad, but hey, he's doing what's right, so we can't criticize him. Let's lend our ears to this person with far too much time on his hands.
Pay for your purchases and get out and come again.
How many of you had to deal with being called a poo or that being referenced? The Simpsons.
Dude, that was when you were 10 years old. In school, people called me a Nazi because I was half German. They said I was Hitler. That's just what kids do. They'll tease each other about anything. Even if APU was voiced by an Indian person, someone would still say, oh, you're like APU, like this. That's just what kids do. They'll find any stick to beat you with. Can you imagine The Simpsons if this guy actually was voiced by an Indian? Then there would be no kind of parody jokes. He would talk like this, and you come into his shop and he'd do nothing wrong, because Indians need special treatment. The poor little Indians. These people think they speak for all Indians. I bet they don't. I bet most normal Indians or people from Indian heritage who grew up in the States and grew up in England fucking love APU. I bet you.
Stereotypes, all races. The problem is we didn't have any other representation.
Okay, so these guys are just saying The Simpsons is full of stereotypes. It goes over to the chef, who's Italian. He's like, oh no, my meatball. It's funny. Comedy needs to be a little bit on the nose, a little bit on the edge. It's not calling for any harm against Indians, for fuck's sake. But the narrative is, if it's white people, if you take the piss out of white people, it's okay. If you take the piss out of these people or minorities, it's not okay. Hey, it's okay to take the piss out of everyone. If you want equality, you have to be equally open to criticism. But then when you do give minorities the same criticism reserved for white people or anybody, then they play the victim and say, oh, but you can't criticize me. These people are just desperate to find a foothold in the world, to find any position on the cliff face that is life, have their voices heard, and be able to shut down people in an argument, because really they've got nothing to say. Look at these bored adults sitting around debating whether APU should be in The Simpsons. So that's enough about that. I've got crazy dry mouth right now. Can I run a water? I think you might leave the show. I'm going to try to engross you with a little bit more news, and I might go for a sneaky water. In other news, all wildlife on Earth is dying. Now, this makes me sad. Oh, hang on a minute. Before we fucking go there, can I... Wait. Sorry, going back to APU, let me draw your attention to the Emmy Awards, the 70th Emmy Awards. This was from this year, 2018, and how they represent white people in the Emmys. Take a look at this.
Did something happen?
But what about me? Is there any room in this song for a straight white guy like me?
So they're making this white guy look like a stereotype. Douchebag, nerds, smug. Look at his get-up as well. Is there room for a white guy like me in this modern, diverse world, in the heart of Hollywood, the self-proclaimed heartland of diversity, inclusive of all people, right?
Was that scary?
It was so scary.
Because that seemed like so high up.
Yeah, it was not my favorite. It's like plummet.
I would absolutely smash this woman. She is very, very hot. Who is she? Showing a bit of cleavage there. Isn't that a gender signifier? Isn't that kind of objectifying, showing her breasts? Isn't that hashtag me too?
Death on national TV much?
So they're all kind of laughing that this guy might have died, because fuck the white guy, right?
Anyway, you can't be a part of that.
Yeah, sounds good. Have fun, you guys.
You can't be a part of this. Why? Because you're white. He came down and said, is there any room for a white guy like me? And they said, no, you can't be a part of this. So in Emmys, which is in the heart of Hollywood, a show that represents politics in left-wing politics in America like no other, is saying that white people can't be part of this because they're white. And then you've got a character in The Simpsons where no one's saying you can't do this because you're Indian or fuck Indian people. It's just a white guy caricaturing his voice, and that's not okay. You people with your selective outrage, pathetic. All right, so enough of that political shit. Moving on to wildlife. All wildlife on Earth is dying. Now, this has made me sad for quite a while. I am far from an animal activist. I think any kind of activism is going back to what we've just seen. It's in the same bracket as SJWism. It's people who kind of get aggressive and violent to kind of push their fanatical beliefs. But hey, in spite of that, I do care about animals a little bit, especially endangered animals. I like cool big animals. I like tigers. I don't like lions as much. I like crocodiles. I like elephants. I saw an elephant for the first time recently in a Tokyo zoo. Wow, what a majestic creature that is. I like rhinos. I like all those cool things. And quite clearly they are dying out. They are. They're endangered, unless you're going to give me some weird conspiracy theory shit. But they are. And that is really concerning. So we don't really know about global warming. We've got some data, we've got some stats. A lot of leading minds out there agree that we are fucking up the world and something drastic needs to be done on the left and on the right. I've watched both sides of the political spectrum talking about climate change, but I think still we don't really know that much. The world hasn't ended yet, the seas aren't boiling, so perhaps there's been a bit too much doom mongering. But still, I think it's undeniable to say that humans are causing majestic animals all over the world to die out. So think about this, right? 150 years ago, there was no electricity even discovered. The world was nowhere near as populous as it is now. And you had all these species roaming around in abundance. And within 100 years, look how much we've fucked up the world. There's so much plastic in the seas. Various species of rhino have died out. There's only thousands of elephants left, thousands of rhinos. The South China tiger has become extinct. There's a handful of tigers around the world and various species. The panda is critically endangered. And so the population keeps growing and growing and growing. We keep using more and more and more natural resources. And these amazing animals are just getting destroyed. And humans are amazing creatures. We're self-aware and we're so intelligent. We fucking can go into space. We can make nuclear bombs. We can make video games. We can do all this shit. And it's just so depressing that in spite of our intelligence, we can't just save the fucking animals and stop expanding at such a rapid rate. But it's so hard with all these disparate countries everywhere. We can't all come to the same kind of agreement, especially the developing countries. You think they're not going to use plastics and shit to grow their economy just because of a bit of fucking pollution? They don't care. It's hook or by crook. So it's kind of sad that these animals are dying out. And I want to just bring your attention to some article. It's actually on CNN. I'm sorry to use this, but I like going to CNN. It's kind of... I just love the outrage that just sweeps across this news site. Brightens my day. So CNN say this is the last generation that can save nature, according to the World Wildlife Fund or the World Wrestling Federation. So it says global wildlife populations have fallen by 60% in just over 4 decades. As accelerating pollution, deforestation, climate change, and other man-made factors have created a, quote, mind-blowing crisis, the World Wildlife Fund has warned in a damning new report. So they say that current rates of species extinction are now up to 1,000 times higher than before human involvement in animal ecosystems became a factor. So the World Wildlife Fund said the crisis is unprecedented in its speed, in its scale, and because it is single-handed. It's mind-blowing. We're talking about 40 years. It's not even a blink of an eye compared to the history of life on Earth. Now that we have the power to control and even damage nature, we continue to use it as if we were the hunters and gatherers of 20,000 years ago with the technology of the 21st century. We're still taking nature for granted, and it has to stop. Report also found that 90% of seabirds have plastics in their stomachs, compared with 5% in 1960, while about half of the world's shallow water corals have been lost in the past 3 decades. It's clear to see just all around, and Just imagine since Red Dead Redemption 2 came out recently, imagine back in cowboy times, barely electricity was around, and was there even electricity? When was electricity invented? 1879. So when did the cowboy era end? 1880. Right, so just after the cowboy era finished, literally, electricity was invented, and there was none of this mass production. There was no factories, there was no machines, there was no mass deforestation, none of this shit. And now, within the space of basically 130 years, we have just colonized the entire planet. There's like roads everywhere. There are power plants spewing out fucking fumes and shit. The oceans are full of crap, full of plastic. The forests are getting smaller. Elephants are being poached. Their natural habitat is becoming smaller and smaller. They're becoming more and more vulnerable. It sucks, man. It really sucks. And where are we going with this? And we all kind of talk about it and say we should do something about it. But really, where all these amazing animals are, they're often in developing countries. And so we're not going to fucking go over there and save the day, the Europeans or the Americans. So it just seems like a problem that can't be solved, and that wildlife is kind of doomed. It's very sad. In other news, you are not allowed to eat chocolate anymore. So I found out today that chocolate was apparently discovered in South America, which means, according to the current SJW trends, you are not allowed to eat it anymore because that would be cultural appropriation. So look at this news article on sciencenews.org. Ancient South Americans tasted chocolate 1,500 years before anyone else. Archaeological finds are the earliest evidence for cacao use in the world. So you might have seen the news recently. I think Katy Perry wore some Japanese-inspired kimono on a performance, and then the SJWs, who are just, as I said earlier, outraged at everything. They're looking for things to be outraged about because they're angry and they like being angry, in contrast to kind of calm, reasonable people. And so they saw Katy Perry was wearing a kimono and they said, "You stole that from Japan, it's cultural appropriation." This is just weasel words in order to shame people for the shamers' own benefit. So they look like people of good moral standing, and people listen to them and their pathetic voice is heard. And so if we go by this logic that is actually being pushed by the mainstream media right now, there's always shit about cultural appropriation and left-wing celebs falling over this idea, then we're not allowed to eat chocolate because it was invented in South America. That means white people cannot eat it, and Asian people cannot eat it, and it was in, I think it's Colombia where they fucking found this shit. Let's have a look. Bit of science news. Ancient South Americans domesticated and consumed cacao, the plant from which chocolate is made, long before other people did, a new study finds. Artifacts with traces of cacao suggest that an Amazonian culture located in what's now Ecuador developed a wide-ranging taste for cacao products between 5,450 and 5,300 years ago. So Ecuador is good for something, apparently. I don't really know what the hell they have over there, but apparently they invented chocolate. So you're not allowed to eat it, basically, unless you're from Ecuador. And that's that. This is why we cannot let these SJW politics rule the world, because we won't be able to eat anything, wear anything, or fucking say anything. It's going to turn into North fucking Korea. In other news today, it's all Trump's fault. So there was this shooting over the weekend where someone shot up a Jewish place of worship, and now there's millions of articles saying it's all Trump's fault. Trump has created an atmosphere of violence in America. The left will do anything they can to just try to sully Trump's name. It doesn't matter what the fuck it is. It's like, it is SJW shit. It's more SJW stuff. They're looking to be offended by everything. They can't listen to what Trump says in an objective way, and they're just out to kill him and destroy him. And there's so many zealots like this. The media now is so fanatical. This portrayal of Trump has become mainstream, and it's so inaccurate. Trump is not responsible for some psychopath shooting up a fucking synagogue. For fuck's sake. That's ridiculous. The left all the time refuse to condemn Antifa in the mainstream news, a very violent group. You see plenty of videos on YouTube of left-wingers in Hollywood physically assaulting Trump supporters, ripping MAGA hats off their heads, slapping them, attacking them. You see it all the time. You see leftists outside universities trying to silence conservative speakers, and the climate is hostile and antagonistic. You never see people on the right try to shut down a left-wing speaker. And so don't be fooled by all these articles trying to blame Trump for this. The media are at fault mainly, in my opinion. The way they kind of stoke up tensions, and also left-wingers in general. Obama created all these fucking identity politics where he put people in boxes and said black people need special treatment, and it's easier for them to get jobs where it's not on an equal footing anymore. And, you know, he was the one who let fucking Antifa into the White House, and you had Hillary Clinton talking trash about white people and making it all about colour. It's just fucking disgusting. And the media are responsible, if anything, for all this, turning it into this theatrical, melodramatic bullshit. In other news, women, Christmas cakes and sex. What do these three things have in common? Okay. So I'm like, what the fuck have I written here? So the reason I'm talking about this is because Starbucks in Japan are releasing their Christmas shit already. So Halloween hasn't even hit, and they're already onto the Christmas marketing promo, and they're releasing some Christmas cake, Frappuccino in Japan. And it's funny because what do you think of when you think of a Christmas cake? I think of the suet kind of shit, the brown cake with the currants in and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Can we get that up? Like a classic, classic Christmas cake. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, thank you. Yeah, have a look here. This is what I see. This is what I imagine when I think of a Christmas cake. Actually, something that's not very nice. This is a very old school style cake. It's got kind of currants and raisins in and spices and shit. My dad used to love this. Well, he still loves it. He loves it with brandy butter. And I always hated it as a kid. It's quite an adult dessert. But that's what I think of. And it has loads of marzipan. Look at that shit. Marzipan everywhere. Is marzipan still a thing? Surely not in today's world of unicorn and freak shakes. But the Japanese idea of a Christmas cake is a strawberry cake. It has a kind of cream coating and very light sponge with a cream and jam filling and strawberries on top. That's what they think is a Christmas cake. It's not, mate. Japanese people, sorry to break this to you, but what you call a Christmas cake is not a fucking Christmas cake. It's far from it. And so Starbucks have this promo where they've got a Christmas cake style Frappuccino. So it's not that weird curranty one. It's actually the creamy strawberry thing. And why is this relevant? Because I want to tell you something about Japanese culture. Apparently out here, they call women over 25 Christmas cakes, because 25, those numbers are significant to Christmas because it's the date of Christmas, the 25th of December. So after the 25th of December, the Christmas cake becomes useless, right? It's not Christmas anymore. You're not going to fucking eat that shit. And so you throw it away. It has no purpose. And that's why Japanese people call women over 25 Christmas cakes, because over 25, they're worthless. They've gone old. That's right, people. Out here, after the age of 25, you're kind of seen as a bit over the hill. And you wonder why women have such crazy mental problems out here. It's funny because all I see is news articles talking about how bad it is in America and Europe, when all I see is pure equality across the board. Men and women have all the same opportunities. But in Japan, the way that people kind of talk about women is very old school. It's very conservative. I quite like it. It's quite funny. We get together with the boys to have a moan about women. But now you have to do that you have to unplug all of your devices and cameras in case the thought police come around and bludgeon you over the head. But in Japan, they're quite old school like that. Anyways, yeah, so a Christmas cake. If you want to say to a woman you're over the hill and getting old, you call that bitch a Christmas cake. Your fucking Christmas cake, love. Get in the kitchen. So, okay, moving on to other news today. Halloween sucks. Yeah, Halloween, fuck that shit. So for me, when does something suck? It sucks when it becomes mainstream. Every motherfucker is doing it. Every motherfucker is talking about it. That means it's not cool anymore. Don't try to tell me that that's not what you aspire to as well. Look at all you nerds playing video games and shit. You all want the items no one else has, right? You want the fucking colourful skin gun that costs about, I don't know, you have to open 1,000 loot boxes to get. You all want to have the special shit that no one else has because you want to be better than people, right? And so when something becomes popular, it just isn't cool anymore. And that is Halloween in Japan. 4 years ago, it exploded out of nowhere, became super popular to the point where police couldn't control the crowds. People descended upon Shibuya, the infamous scramble crossing, and there was chaos. So now the police are kind of cordoning it off, and it's just hell on earth. Why the fuck would you want to go to a clusterfuck commute? It's like being on the train going to work but wearing a skeleton costume. Right? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? I'm going to show you how much of a nightmare Shibuya and Halloween has become. Like, oh man, it's so fucking crowded out there. Check this out, people. Check this out. Right, so Halloween festivities in Tokyo's vibrant Shibuya district got off to a chaotic start over the weekend, with 5 people arrested for offences ranging from fighting, groping, taking upskirt photos, and even flipping over a truck. What is it with perversion in Japan? Why am I always doing articles about Japanese people groping women? What's wrong with you people out here? So this is who is policing Shibuya, the DJ police. Apparently they have police who crack a few jokes and try to just align with the people, create a approachable, kind of casual atmosphere, I guess, rather than being too authoritarian and, you know, whipping up the crowd into a frenzy and a mob mentality. That's how serious it's got out here. So here are the DJ police, and notice how crowded Shibuya looks. It's fucking insane.
Pedestrian streets around 129 is pedestrian streets right now.
See, we can't even understand what the fuck this guy's saying. Japanese people's English in general is fucking awful. And it's just because Japan is so awesome. They do not require English. Their food is amazing. Their technology is amazing. So they just don't have to communicate. And that's in evidence here. This guy's being employed to speak English. And you can't even hear what the fuck he's saying. It's like it's one of the biggest economies in the world. And they can't even employ someone who speaks English. But that's why it's so great out here, because they're so nationalist. They just keep it pure, homogenous, pure Japanese bloods. You know, I'm the outsider here. I'm the invader. But I still love it because it's just so insulated, even to this very day. Okay, so that's the famous scramble crossing with Starbucks and Tsutaya, the bookstore. So look, all these people in a thronging mass, they can't even see each other. You can't even see anyone. They're all wearing these costumes and everyone's just lost in the crowd. There's so much uniqueness that everything becomes very common. Right, look at this shit. Look at this shit. Why in the world would you want to go and fucking be in this sea of clusterfuck shit? Hey, I just want to go run around in complete chaos this evening. You want to join me? Look at this shit. Look at it. Just crazy scenes from Shibuya, and believe me, it gets way more crowded than that. You can be in the same spot for hours trying to get across that crossing. So yeah, Halloween has now become super mainstream, so all the tourists come over and they're like, oh my god, where can I get my Halloween costume? Just fucking leave me alone, mate. I've been there, I've done it. You go into that heaving mass, just become one with the crowd and stand there like this for 6 hours while I make some music. In other news, there's a trailer for a movie called The Quake. So I always Google movie trailers when I do the Johnny Massacre show to see if there's anything to react to. And there is a new movie. I have no idea what this is. It could be really low budget, but it's obviously a disaster movie. So I kind of want to check this out and show you my reaction. Here it is. The Quake official trailer. Here we go. Oh dear. Never a good sign when there's a little bit before the trailer showing you an exciting bit from the trailer to keep your attention. You can predict it. You can track it. And I guess what it's going to say, but you can't stop it. But you can't escape it. It's a German movie. Okay, so no one's going to see this. I'm half German, this is relevant. What my fellow Germans coming up with. Okay, let's see some destruction. Mate, that's not a fucking earthquake. From the producers of The Wave. Okay, so let's pull the plug on this. That's some low-budget German bullshit who absolutely nobody is interested in. Do not go and see the Quake. That is clearly going to be awful. So, in the final bit of news for today, the PlayStation Classics lineup is revealed. So, you might have seen the NES Classic. I think it was called the Classic, or the NES Mini. NES Classic and the Super NES Classic, which is a miniature version of a classic piece of hardware, preloaded with about 20 classic games. So Sony has thrown their entry into the arena, which is the PlayStation Classic. I dropped this news a couple of months ago, but they only released news for a couple of games. So I'm very, very excited now, just in time for Christmas, where you can buy one of these at quadruple the price off Amazon. Why do they even let that happen, Amazon? Let's see what the official lineup is for the PlayStation Classic. I'm very excited about this. They better not fuck this up. Here it is, PlayStation Classics lineup reveals. Sony Interactive Entertainment has released the PlayStation Classics lineup. There are a total of 20 games. It will launch on December the 3rd for $99.99. Very exciting. Here we go. Battle Arena Toshinden. Okay, that was really crap, but very nostalgic. Cool Borders 2. Why number 2? That was the worst fucking one, mate. Cool Borders 1. That was the one. Cool Borders 2 is shit. Fuck. Destruction Derby. That was a very fun game when it came out. Probably terrible by today, but you're just in a bunch of stock cars who go around an arena bashing into each other. Final Fantasy VII. That is the classic, definitive Final Fantasy. I never really liked it that much. The story doesn't make any fucking sense, but there you go. Grand Theft Auto. Wow, is that even the 3D one? Who knows? Intelligent Cube, don't know what that is. Jumping Flash, that's a weird 3D exploration game where you're a metallic rabbit mechanoid. It was actually pretty good for the time. Metal Gear Solid Classic, Mr. Driller, Oddworld, no thanks. Rayman, no thanks. Resident Evil Director's Cut, okay, that's pretty good, I guess. Revelations Persona, what's that? Ridge Racer Type 4, okay, but why is there not Ridge Racer 1? That was the launch title that spearheaded the PlayStation success, that spearheaded the biggest video game company in the world today, and you're not going to include the original. What the hell, people? The launch title? No. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, very kind of niche Street Fighter. Siphon Filter, don't know what that is. Tekken 3, probably the best Tekken. Rainbow Six, all right. Twisted Metal, that was actually quite jokes. Again, a car game. Very ridiculous cars that look like their owners. So you have a clown and it's like a moving circus and you all have to kill each other. That was pretty good. And Wild Arms. So that's pretty disappointing. Where the fuck is Crash Bandicoot? And what other games? Where's Die Hard Arcade? That was a fucking amazing game. There was shooting, there was driving, and then there was a kind of third person action mode. Yeah, the Die Hard game was amazing for PlayStation. And yeah, that lineup is not very thrilling, so I'm not very motivated to get that. Fuck it. Well, I'm going to get myself a glass of water while I run the intro to the part where we talk about my life. I'm thirsty as fuck. Holy crap. Sweating in my recording studio. Still warm in Tokyo when it's nearly November. Please go away. Please go away. Humidity. Please. So, I have a DJ mix coming out today of an event I did for Halloween that was very successful. There were quite a lot of people there. So, shout out to Nick at Eggworm for helping to organise that. Fuck Airbnb, you fucking cunts. Because I also advertise on Airbnb, but Airbnb are the biggest sort of bullshit company ever. They don't protect the hosts. All they do is fucking suck the cocks of all their customers, even if the customer's a complete dick. So fuck Airbnb for not helping me with that. You guys can go to hell. But thank you to all the other people involved who did a great job. And yeah, you'll hear my set later today, hopefully with a little animation from my mate Leo Gan. And what else is going on? So peanut butter, I still fucking love that. I just ordered 2 fucking cups of that shit from Amazon. Hard to get peanut butter with no sugar, but since I'm doing so many weights, I put on 10 kilos in the last couple of months. A lot of it muscle, a little bit of fat, but I guess I'm building up, trying to get Hulk-like in prep for next summer. So I think around end of December, I'm going to go on hard cutting go onto the diet mode. But for now, it's peanut butter straight out the jar. Gaming, yeah, still loving Rainbow Six. We've been playing that pretty much every day. I played that a bit over the weekend. I just love pro games where there's no help for noobs. Unforgiving, no mercy games where you can shoot through the fucking wall. That's how deep it is. Rainbow Six Siege. I'm 2 years late to the party, but it is awesome. And yeah, that's about it for now. I'm sweating, so I'm gonna fucking rip this shirt off and just run around my room naked. Sorry the show's late. There will be another one later this evening in Japan. And so when you're watching this in America, it still might be Monday. So you're gonna get 2 Johnny Massacre shows back to back pretty quickly. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video in my crusade against the SJW and me bringing you the news of video games, movies and shit about Japan. Love you as always and see you tomorrow.